So what we're doing today is the I call this the heart of databases. Oh, and before I forget, Friday is catch-up day. I will not be here, but we'll have a chance for you to work on completing your queries. I will have a video available, and I'm hoping Mr. Elliott will just be here more to just make sure that the video is working. So Friday, I'm heading to be in Minnesota for a little memorial for my father up there. But today we're doing database design, and I thought I would show you one alternative to a database. Before we get into this, I'm going to bring up FileMaker Pro. This is a application that was built for a Mac. You can download a free trial. You have to give them your email and I think the business you work for. And it will build you a database. Let's see, we'll have to let it through here. It's the first time I'm running. You can build a database using FileMaker Pro. It's a little, I'd say a little friendlier, but it is quite a bit different. But you basically can do inventory tracking and material tracking to keep track of contacts. So it's like a little database, but a different approach to it. And let's see, we're creating a database here. We're going to call it contacts. And here I enter information and I can adjust what I am editing. Here's records of information that I can enter into this already built database for me. So FileMaker Pro started with a Mac. They do have a Windows version available, but it is another option for databases or managing inventory, managing contacts. We're not going to do a class on FileMaker Pro, but that is a popular approach to databases. It's user-friendly, and I haven't used it a ton, but I've seen people use it, and the one person that used it a lot for keeping track of payments for coming to a camp and conference area, he thought it was a lot easier to use and access. Problem is, it was only available on Mac for the longest time. It is quite a bit different in the user interface, but something that if you come across discussing databases with your nerd friends, you can mention, oh yeah, FileMaker Pro, I know does databases too as well. But we'll work on Access because that's Microsoft's version and similar concepts as we work on queries. So let's go back to our previous project, Access Project 2, there it is. It remembers my previous project. Whenever you see, if you do get a little yellow bar across the top, you want to enable the content. Notice I do not sign in. I don't want to work in the cloud. I've had too many issues with the cloud failing me at just the horrible times. But if you sign in, you can keep track of your documents in the cloud. You have to use your Microsoft Office login and all that. If you need any help with that, let me know and I can make sure that your office.com login is working for you. So remember what we have here. We have an appointments table. I can double click, see all the appointments information. Close that. See all my owners. We added owners last time, and I can close that. Patients. We added additional patients. We gave them P-IDs instead of what they were before, so I adjusted their patient ID. And treatment costs, keeping track of the treatments that are associated with appointments. And finally, we have veterinarians, additional veterinarians that we added. And if you need to go back and check your veterinarians, I'm not going to worry so much about you have the exact same phone number. The main thing is you have veterinarians with unique IDs, and we do some searches on what state they live in, so you want to get their state and city right if you want to get the similar results in our queries. I adjusted the columns, so when I go close this, it'll say, do you want to save those changes? Yes. Remember, if I ever make a change to the data, say Teresa, I add A at the end of her name, and I go to close it, it doesn't say, do you want to save the changes? It automatically updates the data, record data, without asking, do you want to save it? It's automatically updated in my tables. All right, let's get on to queries now, because that's what this chapter is about. We used a wildcard last time. Let's just review our wildcard example, and then we'll build some more. Right-click, Design View, takes me right to the design page for that. And what I see here is I'm showing the owners table. I'm showing records from my owners table. I'm showing first name, last name, street, city, state, and zip code of every owner in the owners table. But what's different, rather than just looking at the table, I have this query. Think of this as like a filter. I'm only looking for owners whose state matches this criteria, like U star. And remember, I don't have to type like U star. I just type U star for the owner's criteria for showing an owner is the owner state should be U star. The star means it's a wild card. Hit tab or click on another box. Access adds the like quote U star quote around it. And then when I view the data, it only shows me the owners that come from a state that begins with letter U. That is the example query. And now we're going to do some more queries. I'm not going to save changes because I already had it. And now let's build a new query. We created it and saved it. Now we're going to build another query. Let's start again with a owner's query. And I could have started with that one and modified it, but I want to have good practice at creating them. So I go to the Create tab, Query Design. The table I want to see over here in the Add Tables is the Owners table. Double click to show the Owners table. And now I don't need to see that Add Tables anymore. Now I want to see the owner first name, double click last name, and it's showing up in the column. City, state, zip, no, address, city, state, zip. I can stretch that out. Street, city, state, and zip, postal code. And suppose I know a specific postal code this time. I can change the criteria or add the criteria to the postal code of 813 star. The postal code has to start with 813, and as you might expect, if I hit tab, just like before, it adds the like, quote, 813 star. Wildcard is the star. I click view, and now I see the one owner that lives in that zip code 813 something. Back to design view, and I see that criteria. Now suppose I don't care to see the zip code. I just want to get the owners that are within that zip code. That's where this show checkbox comes somewhat meaningful. If I click or uncheck the show button, I still get the same results, but I don't see the zip code that was found. I don't find this particularly useful, but sometimes you don't need to see the data, but you need to filter on that criteria. So very rarely I will turn off the checkbox. Usually it's useful to see, well, what did I search for? Oh yeah, that's the zip code I'm searching for. But they show you that you can search, they call this searching for records, or use criteria on fields that are not included in the results. That's just the usefulness of that show button. And we are going to save this as AC2-13 by clicking the Control S, call it AC2-13, and we'll use the show checkbox example. So I can decide whether or not to show it, but still the criteria applies. Occasionally that can be useful. Now another thing they show in this example, this same owner's query. This time we're going to modify this and do a save my query as a new name. This is something you got to be very careful about. Let's go ahead and we're going to show the zip code. I'm going to remove the criteria, and I'm going to ask for a criteria underneath the state. And let me show what we're going to put there, because it's kind of strange what we do. We're going to type a special information in our criteria. It's called a parameter query. And we're going to type in square brackets, and I'll show you, I'm going to show you a notepad what to type, because it's kind of hard to read here. Let me bring up, I think I'll bring up notebook and show you what to put here. We'll bring up notebook, or notepad, I mean. What I'm going to type is this: in square brackets, please enter the state. I'm going to put that in square brackets right here in the criteria portion for state. In square brackets, please enter the state. The square brackets do something special. When I run this query now to view the data, either run or view, I like view because I know I want to see the data, watch what happens. A little parameter box pops up. Please enter the state. And I'm going to put UT for the state, and then it shows me the results for everyone in the state of Utah. Let's run it again by just clicking again, view, and this time I'll put CO for the state, and it shows me all the data that have owners in the state of Colorado. All because I put square brackets around the criteria. So this is what we call a parameter query. When I run the query, have it ask me for a particular piece of information it's searching for. It's not super useful. Let's see what happens if I put two of them in there. Let's do city, question mark, in square brackets there for the city. Well, let's see what happens with that. Oh, it asked me for the city. Let's put Blanding. And then it asked me for the state. Let's put CO. Oh, there are no owners in city Blanding and state CO. So square brackets just mean it's going to ask you what should the criteria be when you run the query. Now, because we're modifying an existing query, we're going to be very careful how we save this to show that we did the work. We're going to save this as AC2-15, and here's how we do that. Instead of a save here, we're going to do a save as, because we're modifying an existing query. We don't want to tromp over what we had in AC2-13. We want to make a new database, or a new query in this database, AC2-15. So I do that by doing File, Save As, save this object, and then Save As. And now it's going to ask me, well, what should I call it? I'm going to call it AC2-15 parameter query. I click OK, and now I have it showing up as a new query. Control S will replace your query with any changes. Save As, Save Object As, will create a new query. So that's the parameter query, making it somewhat user-friendly, but it is a little bit clunky. The square bracket thing isn't an obvious thing to do, but square brackets in the criteria means it will become a parameter query. Now, let's close this query and build a new one from scratch based on a different table. Close that one, and now we're going to go to Create, Query Design, and start a whole new one. Just for practicing this whole query thing. This time, we're going to add the table called treatment cost. Well, I go to my add tables, double click treatment cost, and what do I want to view? I want to view the treatment number, the treatment description, the animal type, and cost. So essentially every column from my table, but the criteria I want to be in this time is not a text, it is a number. So criteria is going to be 25. It's a numerical criteria. Slightly different. Notice it doesn't put a like quote 25 around there now. I'm looking for the number 25 in the cost. And now when I view this, I will see all treatment costs, all treatments that cost $25. So numerical fields or numerical data, it looks a little different in the criteria. I'm looking for the number exactly 25. And I think we're going to save this one as AC2-17 numerical criteria. Oh, and I accidentally clicked the checkbox. We do want to see the number because it's helpful to know, well, what criteria was I putting on the cost. And I'm going to do a save, Control S because I haven't saved it yet, and it will ask me, what should I name it? AC2-17 was it? AC2-17 numerical criteria. So you see the criteria is the most powerful thing about our queries. That's what's happening. Again, when you go on the internet and are looking for information, the criteria is somewhere in the title is the search terms that you're searching for in Google's gigantic database. So when you do a search, they build a query looking for particular criteria. Again, for the database people, they had to learn this language to find data out of databases. And the highly paid database analysts can still learn this language and build much fancier queries searching for specific information. And they learn all about how to type this out correctly so they get the specific information about a student with a particular ID at a particular course in a particular semester to pull the information out to show you your transcript. So there's a database behind the whole Populate thing. When you log in and you look at your transcript, this system, database people have designed queries to find your information so you know what courses are available, what courses to register for. It's all based on a database behind the scenes. So you're learning just a little taste of what databases do and a somewhat user-friendly interface rather than you learning this database programming language. It's called Microsoft SQL, MS SQL for short. Okay, we're happy with that query. I can always come back to it. I do want to save my changes because I adjusted some things. I can always come back to that and view the results and view the design of it. If I ever want to review how I did that. Specific criteria. Now, if I said, I want someone who has an appointment after July 1st, 2021. So now we're going to get something a little more interesting. So we're going to look in our appointments table, and let's find appointments that come after July 1st. So I go to Create, Query Design. I want to view the table appointments. Then I can close the Add Tables. I want to see the appointment date, double click, the appointment time, the treatment number, double click, the veterinarian, and the patient ID. So notice the order, I get to decide the order of the columns in the Real-Zelton query. And now I am looking for an appointment date that comes after July 1st. And here's how I do that. In my criteria, I can type greater than 7/1 slash, and the year is 2021 in this database. Greater than means comes after. Now let's see what happens if I click off of that. Access puts little pound signs or hashtags around my date. That's the special way that it formats references to dates. Let's see what we get for a list of our appointments. Click on Datasheet View, and there I have all my appointments after 7/1/2021. If I want to see what they all were, I can go just open my appointments table, and I see that I had other appointments that came before July 1st, and they do not show up in my query results, but I know they are there in my appointments table. This does bring up one little topic that is very common to databases is, what do I do about old appointments? Are they useful to me anymore? I've had, say this company's been running for 10 years. I have appointments in my tables from 10 years ago when we started. Was that useful? Is it using up a lot of space in my database? Well, depending on how much data we store in our appointments table, that could be a lot of data. So databases, after they're used for a while, need to be cleaned up, but you don't want to throw useful information away, or you want to be able to get at it sometime. So what happens is you archive your database, make a backup copy, and then you clean out old data, because databases, especially if they have a lot of information, can really grow quickly and be cumbersome and slow because they haven't had a good cleanup. So whenever you're using databases, as they have a lot of information, you'll do a backup and a clean out old records. That's a standard thing that the database people will do. Probably not your job, but you'll probably be hearing about paying the database people to do database maintenance. And that's something we'll be looking at in Project 3. So this query, again, is appointments that came after July 1st, 2021. The greater than symbol works with dates as well, because remember, internally, the computer treats dates as numbers, days since January 1st, 1900 or something like that. So we're going to save this query now, and this is a date query, so we will save it as AC2-18. Control S, save, AC2-18, and we'll call it a date criteria example. So query on a date, referencing the page in the book as we build them. So by now I'm hoping that building queries is becoming, the design view is becoming a little easier to understand. Now we're going to do something a little more complicated. We're going to modify this date query. This time we're going to change the date to be greater than 6/30/2021. July 1st or beyond, rather than greater than July 1st. So just in case we miss some appointments on exactly July 1st. But I can also add another criteria to the veterinarian field in the same row. I can also put B01, meaning only the appointments for a veterinarian B01. Let's see what we get for a result. I get one result. Without the B01 there, I have two veterinarians with appointments after June 30th. If I'm only interested in the one veterinarian, I put B01, quotes around it. Notice the like isn't there because it's in no wildcards. I'm looking specifically for just that veterinarian. And if I type in the wrong ID for the veterinarian, like I accidentally type a B capital O1 because I didn't read it carefully enough, I will get no results in my search results. That just means that their criteria doesn't match anybody. Doesn't mean that I have a bad query, just that data isn't there. So B01 does show that veterinarian. Now if I wasn't sure if it's a BO or a B0, I could type B star, and not B8, B star, And let's see if case matters. B star, and I'm using lowercase b. Look at that. Lowercase b does match B01, capital B. So we'll do it exactly like the book, B01. If I know exactly the idea of my veterinarian, there's my criteria. So they call this compound criteria because it's criteria here, date after a particular date, and a specific veterinarian. And the key word here is and. When it's on the same row in the criteria fields, that means both have to be true in order for me to show that information. So it's after this date and also just this veterinarian. And we're going to save this one as compound criteria. So we're going to save that one as AC2-20 compound criteria. And notice, since I modified a previous one, I'm going to do a file save as, save object as, and then save as AC2-20 compound criteria. And I'm going to put the word and in there because it's compound and it's two things, two criteria anded together. Now suppose I want veterinarians after a date or all the veterinarians B01s. I can change that and put the B01 on a separate line, making it an or criteria. B01 here means any appointment after June 30th and any appointment for veterinarian B01. So now I should get more results because I'm looking for appointment date after this time or veterinarian B01, all of their appointments regardless of date. And let's see what I get for a result. There I have appointments after July 1st for any veterinarian, and all the rest are all the veterinarian B01's appointments. I'm not sure if that makes sense for someone. Why would they want that specific information in one query? But this is an example of a compound criteria using OR. And we see the OR if we look at the actual code that the database people would do. Here we see the OR in there because of putting it on separate lines. And Access is making you not have to learn this, but you learn to manipulate the fields in the somewhat friendly design grid. And this design grid is admittedly not the most friendly, but it is, I'd say, friendlier than learning that language. So there's the design view, just moving the B01 to a different line, and then it'll have the OR criteria. And I think it doesn't care, as long as it's on a different line, you can add more criteria further down, even skip a line, and it's happy. It'll still work. So anything that's not on the same line with any other criteria, think of that as combining the results from the search for that one combined with the results for that criteria. So now we're going to do a save as AC2-20, this is also AC2-21 compound criteria with an OR. So let's do a save as, save object as, then a save as, and we're going to call it AC2-21 compound criteria with OR. The OR is because I have them on different lines. So lots of things we can do as we build queries. The idea is I can extract information from tables, and normal databases don't just have tiny tables like this. As this company works and has lots of, thousands of customers over several years, this appointments table is going to get larger. Owners, that's going to get larger. And so we're searching through data that is not searchable manually. Tiny table like this, I could just go manually look at this, and I could just keep it in an Excel spreadsheet. So Now we're going to build a query that is sorting the information for us. And we need one extra piece of data for this project. Right now we have veterinarians, but we also need, from our treatment tables, or we're purchasing materials, we need vendors. We need to keep track of vendors where we order material from or order treatments from. So there's another table that I need to import just to give us practice like we did last time. So let's go, first of all, find the data for module 2 that we downloaded last time. So let's go back to our access documents here that we downloaded last time. I'm going to where we downloaded those extra data that came with the book. The access intro modules 1 to 3 folder. Down in there we have module 1, module 2, module 3 data. Down inside of module 2 data, I see there is a database with some extra tables. That's the database that I'm needing to import from. So I'm checking to see that it's there. Now I'm going to go back to access and import the extra tables for vets. That's the one we're going to use. We're going to import the vets extra tables. So let's see how we do that. First I made sure that the database was there, and it is extracted. Remember, if it's in the file with a zipper on it, like if you find it in here, you can see it in here, but I'm inside the zip file and Access won't be able to find it. Make sure that it doesn't, there's a folder without a zipper on it so Access can get to it. Now I can go over to Access and go to External Data, New Data Source, from a database. It's an Access database, and now I browse to where I was keeping those databases over there on my drive down in the users AT Manning, documents cs101, 2024 spring, and there's the modules 1 to 3, module 2 data, vets extra tables. Double click, and I'm going to import them into my database. If you had databases that you're going to keep in special places and don't want to make a copy of it, there is a possibility to link to it, but the problem with that is that if that source ever moves, this link gets broken. So don't create a link unless you know where you're getting it from. It's never going to move. And you can even link to databases out on the internet, which is a cool feature that you don't have to do in this class, but you can actually link to external databases. So there's the table, veterinary vendors, the one table in that extra database. I click that and click OK, and I don't need to save my import steps. And now I see I have veterinary vendors table just got added to my database. Double click to see what's in there, and I see they have names of vendors and a veterinary supply. The vendors have IDs 1 to 5, and I see what they supply to us. Now I don't see how we link to it because I don't see a reference to any vendor yet. We may be adding a vendor reference to our tables to actually relate this to our existing tables. Now we have imported veterinary vendors. And yes, I adjusted a column. I'm going to keep the adjustment to the column size. So imported from another database. So as we build queries, we'll be able to use and query the veterinary vendors table. So now let's build a new query. This query is going to be treatment cost. In the book they call it create a new query based on treatment cost. What that means is create query design from the table treatment cost. Double click and I can close that. And what we want to see is all the treatment cost fields, the treatment and its cost. I don't care to see the treatment number. So treatment, double click, and cost. Let's see, before adding any criteria, what's there. There's all my treatments and their costs. Two columns from the treatment cost table. Now what we're going to do now is we would like to list our treatments from lowest to highest cost. Sometimes it's useful to have them sorted. Right now they're not sorted alphabetically or numerically. Let's sort them numerically by clicking on the sort row here and choose ascending. If I double click, it will toggle through the possible values, or I can click the pull down and choose ascending. Now when I view the data, it's sorted by increasing cost. To view the language, that becomes an order by statement in the query. I see the data sorted nicely. And let's see, are we saving that one? We're saving that one and saving it as AC2-24, a sorted query. So Control S to save this one. And we'll call it AC2-24, sorted results. All because I chose the sort field. I didn't leave it empty. Now, if I don't want to see the same cost twice, and I don't care to see the treatment, all I want to see is my costs, they show how you can remove a column and remove duplicates. We're going to skip that one. Now, I'm going to close this table, or close this query, and build one that is going to sort on multiple fields, because there's something special about sorting on multiple fields. So we've built up a list of queries. Now we're going to create a query on our treatment cost table, or our treatments table, by doing create, query design. The treatment table, double click, and now I want to see the treatment number, the treatment, the animal type, and the cost. Let's sort both ascending. Animal type ascending and cost ascending. And now let's see what we get for a result and see what happens depending on the order of our two columns. Since animal type comes first, I have animal type listed first, and within animal type the costs are sorted ascending. Then I have feline type, and within feline costs are sorted ascending. Why is that? Well, because the feline or the animal type column was listed first. If I click and change the order of my columns, click on that and then drag this to the right, now it's listed by increasing cost, and then if anything has the same cost, it's sorted by animal type within the same cost. So the order that you list your columns is very important if you're having sorting on multiple columns. The thing that gets sorted by first is the leftmost column ascending. Now it's sorted first by animal type, then by cost. So left to right is the precedence of what gets sorted first. And when you have a list of people with names, that's why when I have a list of friends, I always have last name listed first and then first name, so people in the same family get listed, sorted by name within the same family. If you sort by first name then last name, things aren't sorted very nicely. So there is multiple column sorting from the treatment table. And we'll save that one as AC2-27 multiple column. AC2-27 multi-column sorting. And remember, left to right is the precedence. Animal type gets sorted first, then within that animal type, the other sorting happens. And again, these are things that as you get results from databases out there on the internet, guess what their sorting criteria is? If I go to Google and I search for, what should I search for? Let's search for rainwear. They give you results based on relevance, if it does have rain and wear in the product description, and a hidden column of who is paying Google to have their ads come listed first. So there's a criteria in the results, depending on where you go to for searching, that Google may not be telling you about, that you are getting results based on what vendors out there are paying them to show you their listing first. You think you're searching on most relevant results that have your keywords, but behind and probably sorted first is who paid Google to have their ads show up, and then within that sort for things that have the keywords you're looking for. And that happens all the time there when you're searching for products, when you're looking for videos to watch, when you're looking for news. What do we want to show you first is in those queries that are being done for you whenever you're on the internet. So the sorting by what columns, whether or not you know it, there are criteria being applied. That's why they make it free for you, because vendors pay them for their ads to show up for you first. So that is the sorting on multiple columns. Now, so far, we've been only sorting on one table at a time. And sometimes we get a lot of results and we only care to see the top few results. In this one, I see all my animal types, but suppose I only care to see only the first 5 listings. I can choose what to list, either a 5% or just the first 5. I can sort and return a limited number. We call that a top values query. So I can say, just give me the first 5 results, and there is just the first 5 from that query. So sometimes that's useful, especially if I'm going to produce a web page. I don't need to list all or get all the results. I only get the first 5, so my page doesn't take so long to show to you. So when you go on the internet and search, they tell you that they have 5 million results, but in the search they don't find all 5 million and then pop up the page. They do a top value. Let's show you the first 50, and then your web page shows up, or your results show up much quicker. So this is called a top values query. We'll do a file, save as, save object as, and we'll call this AC2-28 top values query. AC2-28 top values query. With that one little change right here in the ribbon and the query design, return just the first 5. There's lots of other options in here that as we build, but we're just learning a little bit as we go. And we'll stop here. The rest of the queries will be practiced on a video on Friday. I'll be gone, but we'll have a video playing, helping you complete this AC2 project. A few more queries left to do, and then give you a chance to catch up on any work. So save this and have a great day. I will stop the recording and have that available for you. Have a wonderful day.